Good morning, and welcome to Ask the Expert, an award-winning daily series from 8:30 to 9 a.m. to help small businesses. If you have any questions, you can ask them in the comments of the live feed. If you need any more advice, join the official Intuit QuickBooks SMB community group on Facebook, where the accountants and business experts are on hand 24/7. During this live session, we will be running a poll, so please do engage with it, and I'll reveal the results at the end. If you are on TikTok, you can check out the Be Your Own Boss competition. You can pitch a new business idea, and you could win investment, mentorship, and business advice to help to make this a reality. The investment pot is now up to £10,000, thanks to Go Cardless, adding more into the initial pot from the Purposeful project. Tag #BeYourOwnBoss to enter. My name is Eva Mrazikova, and I am an accountancy market specialist in Iris Software Group. Just a bit about my background. So I have been working in various accountancy roles for over 15 years, whether it was in the industry or in the practice environment. Probably the part that I enjoyed the most and kind of continuing doing and developing on is really advising, whether it's businesses or looking at the practice, how they operate and what kind of processes can be improved, what efficiencies can be brought on board. So trying to be more efficient, work smarter with what we have. So I do really enjoy the whole onboarding and digitalization. I also have a wealth of experience in the payroll and the VAT as well. So yeah, accountancy is not boring at all. What I would like to remind you guys before I touch a bit more around my topic is in terms of self-employment support scheme grant number 5, some rules were updated. We will know more towards the end of June, but what we know now, and it's a little bit different, so that's why I want to make sure that we do cover it. The grant number 5 will cover the period, obviously, from May to September 2021. But the value of the grant will be determined by a turnover test. So where before we only looked at the average profits, we now have turnover test, which is going to look at the reduction in turnover between April 2020 to April 2021. So there are kind of two different groups where applicants with reduced turnover of 30% and more are entitled to 80% of 3 months average profits, maximum grant of £7,500. And then the other group applicants whose turnover is less than 30%, are entitled to 30% of 3 months average trading profits, maximum grant allowance, £2,850. Important thing is that all the applicants must provide documentary evidence to support this application, and they need to be able to demonstrate the financial impact that the pandemic had on their business. So what does it mean really? Again, the real-time live record keeping, it's a must, it's a necessity, because this will allow you to apply for the grant without any delay. You will be able to prove that your turnover dropped. So again, I keep banging on about that. You need QuickBooks to set yourself up and have a regular record keeping. So have your books up to date. If you need any more advice, you can reach out to me or to our QuickBooks team as well. So my topic that I would like to talk about today is what is the difference between being your own boss and between employed? Because many people think that being your own boss is very cool. But from my own experience, I went through both, and I must say that both have their pros and cons as well. So it's not one fit for all, really. But what are the main differences so you guys can make up your mind? So the first one is autonomy. Obviously, if you are self-employed, you have more power about making your own decisions. You can decide whether you want to take on the project or job. Opposite, when you are self-employed, when you are employed, you kind of need to listen to your employer. And they will tell you what to do. They will be giving you projects and tasks. So you have much less autonomy in deciding whether you want to take on the job or not. In terms of flexible working hours, this is again sometimes a myth. Because when you're self-employed, the perception is you can work whenever you like, how many hours you like. Opposite, when you're employed, you have fixed number of hours, maybe need to be in the office from 9 to 5, or hopefully some remote working in this day and age. But the reality is, if you are self-employed, and although you can have flexible hours, you usually end up doing more hours because it's your business. So the buck stops with you. So you are responsible for that. In terms of the equipment to do the work, whether it's laptop or plumbing equipment or van or some kind of machinery. So if you are employed, obviously your employer will provide you with everything. So you don't have any extra expenses. If you are self-employed, this cost is usually down to you. So you need to invest, you need to buy equipment, whether it's laptop, whether it's piece of machinery, whatever you need, any tools. So again, it's an extra cost really. So you might be earning more, but at the same time, you might have to spend more as well. In terms of the liability and your overall protection. So when you are employed, usually your employer is covered for everything. So even if you do any damage, that is covered by insurance. So you rarely would be bearing the cost, or if you kind of do damage to the customer, usually there is insurance in place that employer will cover for that. But if you are self-employed, this is again extra cost that you need to bear in mind. So you need your own insurance, such as professional indemnity and public liability as well, very important. Holiday pay and sick pay. So obviously you employed, you call your boss, you're off sick, you get the worst basic statutory minimum sick pay, or you're off on holidays, you still get paid. Now, when you are self-employed, there is no holiday pay, there is no sick pay. So you tend to take less days off because the days you're not working, you're not making any money. So again, it's not as glamorous as it sounds. In terms of the workplace pension, so as we know, the auto-enrollment is in place where the employer has to contribute at least 3% at the moment from your qualifying earnings. So you are saving with every pay into your pension pot. If you are self-employed, there are only your contributions. Nobody else is going to contribute to your pension. Enabled creativity, I call it. What do I mean by that? So when you're self-employed, it's almost a must or a given that you need to be creative. You need to be thinking about different ways or different streams of income for your work, so you can much more execute even the ideas that you have. This is not always the case in employment, and sometimes you need to play by the book, you need to obey the rules. There might not be as much of flexibility for you to think, but thankfully many of the jobs will allow you to think outside of the box. Financial security. So very easy, and again, very important thing to think about. So say, for example, you were, as employee, you were assigned to the project, you did a project, you spent 40 hours, 60 hours on the project, and you get your wage paid. No matter what is the outcome of the project, you still get your salary. But it might be when you are self-employed, you don't have this security, you might not get paid. And even if you do the work, sometimes you don't get paid, or it's very much delayed in when you get paid. So in terms of the financial security, that's a difference as well. And kind of the last one, which I want you to think about, is that usually when you are self-employed and be your own boss and running a business, you need to be wearing multiple hats. So you are financial controller, you are bookkeeper, you are financial advisor, and then you are your procurement, you are your marketing, everything. So you need to be wearing multiple hats until you get into the stage where you can maybe get part of your workload outsourced, but it takes time to get into that stage. Usually when you are employed, you just focused on one role that you are in. So this is just overall. Please, if you have any questions on this topic, get in touch with me. And I'm now going to start taking questions, because we have already a few in the queue. So the first one, Yvonne on Twitter DMs. Hi, Eva. I've been considering going freelance for a while now, but don't know where to begin. What's your advice for those starting out? What should I be focusing on first? Hi, Yvonne. Hope you have a wonderful Monday. Great question. So I assume you considering going a freelance because you have an idea you want to develop, you want to start a business, or maybe it's already established market you want to enter in. So you know exactly what you would be doing. Better both. I would take pen and paper and I would draft a business plan. What do you think would happen? How do you think the things would happen? You need to draw down all your initial costs, be true to yourself, all the spendings that you need to do, and the income as well, if you can possibly to plan the income. So you really need a solid business plan so you can actually see whether what you are planning or you're dreaming about can become a reality. So this is the first thing. And then when you see that this is viable, that at the end of it, it's going to bring you some income in, then you can think about setting up as self-employed. I would advise you, if you don't have any knowledge in this area, that you would find an accountant who will help you with this, and they can help you with the business plan as well. And the other important thing, well, this goes for employment as well, but I think you need to love what you do. If you're just doing work for money, I don't think that's kind of long-lasting outcome for you. So make sure whatever you're going to do, you're going to love what you do, because if you will be self-employed, you're going to put a lot of time into that. But good luck with that. If you need any more advice, please get in touch. Jamil on Facebook Messenger. It's the early days of my business and I'm still figuring out how to divvy up my income. Is there a general rule on how much profit should I take home versus how much should be reinvested back into my business? Hi, Jamil. Very good, valid question. Thank you for that. So there is no really, in my opinion, a specific formula on this, because it really depends much on the business that you are in. How secure is your recurrent income? How big, what is the size of the income for each period? How big are your expenses as well? So that all depends on it. I would always, so I would advise people who are self-employed, whenever you are billing clients, invoicing, and you're getting money in, put aside at least 20 to 30% of that income, put it aside and try not to use it because it will be taxed and everything. Obviously, you will have some expenses to go against this income, but kind of between 20-30%, if you can afford to put aside for rainy days, for the tax bills, for kind of unprecedented events. So at least you have that pot on the side. In terms of your drawings or of your wage, obviously, if you are self-employed, there is no wage, there are drawings. So you need to make sure whatever money you take out on the weekly basis, that you still have money to function, to operate in your business. That's one thing. And the other thing you're asking about, reinvested. Again, that depends on the business. It really depends. But if it's a service business, you're providing service, probably there isn't much reinvestment needed into machinery, equipment, or whatever. But if it's connected to maybe manufacturing or something, that you might be reinvesting more regularly. So again, that depends, but you will know what you will need in the future, maybe for next 6, 12 months, 2 years, 3 years, how much you will need to invest, how much will be your expenses. So you need to bear that in mind. I'm hoping this was is a little bit more clearer for you. As I said, it's not a straightforward answer, but if you think about those things, that should help you. Carrie on Instagram DM, considering starting my own creative agency, but I'm not great with numbers. What should I be looking for in a partner I can bring on board to manage sales and the finances? Hi, Carrie. Good question. I'm not really sure whether you mean if you are bringing a partner, this is going to be a business partner, so you will be in the partnership, because that is a little bit different than hiring a bookkeeper or an accountant. If you are looking at a partner in the partnership, so it will be, usually it's an equal relationship, or you can have a different split of the partnership, maybe 70%, 30%, whatever. But in kind of both scenarios, what I would be looking in the partner, you need to click. You need to, so when you talk to this person, they not only need to be financially skilled and knowledgeable in the area, but you probably will be working with them long hours. So you need to be able, you need to be able to communicate with them on a regular basis. There needs to be kind of good, solid relationship. You don't need to be best buddies or anything like that, but it needs to be a person who is willing to listen, who is willing to put across their own ideas, who is not afraid to contribute, or who is not afraid to maybe go the extra mile. That's very important. And they need to be committed. They need to show you the commitment to your business as well as you are, because that's very important. If they're not going to care the same way you care, that's very kind of difficult then to push them in the same way that you're pushing yourselves. If you're not great with numbers, maybe again, try to speak to an accountant, find an accountant that might help you with this, and they might help you to find this partner for the finances, because it's very important to get this one right. Hopefully this helped answer your question. Nicholas on Facebook. Pandemic pushed me into setting up my own business. It's been going well, but I'm not sure I'm making enough money to keep it going much longer unless I get additional employment. Is there anything I should be trying before I do that? Okay, Nicholas, I feel for you. This is very tough situation, and I think there are many like you. Because I don't know any more about your business, what you are doing. So depending on your business, Nicholas, did you think about all other options of bringing income in? So say, I'm just going to say example, if you had a coffee shop in the center of the town, but because of the lockdown, there wasn't great footfall. Many people weren't coming in. So you would set up the delivery, for example. So things like that, where you're trying to think outside of the normal way you're doing things, how you can reach out to your potential clients in a different way. Or for example, if it would be a gym owner, so instead of just waiting for people to come into your gym, you maybe start streaming online videos where people can pay you before through PayPal or whatever. So there are options how you can pivot the business where you kind of doing a bit of the same thing, but maybe you're trying to appeal to your customers in a different way. So that's kind of the least drastic. There might be other solutions of pivoting your business that might be completely changing, but again, that depends on your business. But before I would go and kind of look for employment, those were the things that I would try to explore. Did you explore all the opportunities, how to deliver your business, and also make sure that you are aware of all the grants and support that is available there. Check with your local area, local council. There might be some local grants available, even depending on your industry. So make sure that you avail of all the grants that are available to you as well. And I wish you the best of luck, Nicholas. Billy on Facebook Messenger. I've always liked the idea of being my own boss, but what I like about being an employee are all the benefits and the deductions are automatically taken out of my paycheck. If I started working for myself, how do you manage what you do and don't owe? So as I said before, this is very tricky because when as you pointed out rightly, when you are employed, all the tax and everything, it's being taken care of through the PAYE. So whatever you get on your paycheck, that's your money. But whenever you are getting income as self-employed, you issuing invoices to your customers, that's just gross income that is coming in. So the first advice, don't spend it all, obviously. And as I said before, I would encourage you to try to put aside between 20 to 30% of the income that is coming in. Obviously, you will have some expenses to that you can set off against the income, but that will kind of give you a room to kind of not to be worried and making sure you don't owe. So definitely real-time record keeping, that's a must. So get yourself a QuickBooks, sign up for QuickBooks, find an accountant. They can help you to set up and they can help you to show you how to build the clients, how to record your expenses. So you will have all the time a kind of a fair idea of how much tax you owe. This is very important. So then at the end of the year, you don't get a nasty surprise. If you are keeping your records up to date, you are more likely to see what's happening, how much you owe, what you need, how much you need to put aside. So things are much more manageable. So yes, this real-time record keeping, it's a must for any business if they don't want to have nasty surprises. Juliet on Instagram DMs. What are your pro tips for keeping your accounts organized within QuickBooks when you're doing it yourself? Very good, Juliet. That's a very good question. And it's one of my favorite topics. So as I said, real-time record keeping. So what do I mean by that? Do not be logging into QuickBooks once a month or even once a week. You need to be in QuickBooks every day, uploading your transactions, updating your bank feeds. Hopefully you have your bank connected, so your bank transactions appear or uploading automatically into your software. Post all your transactions in a timely manner, all your expenses as you have them. So for me, that's the main thing, ongoing recording on a daily or bi-daily basis if I close all my eyes, because you need to be on top of it. Once it gets out of hand, that's it. It's very difficult, and that's where the mistakes are done. That's where the mispostings are done. So you need to be organized. I know obviously you didn't go into business to do a bookkeeping, but believe me, if you do it on a daily basis, it gets much easier and much more manageable. So I wish you good luck with that. We have Leah on Twitter DMs. Currently have a short-term contract and it's been found to be inside IR 35. What does this mean for me? Leah, check with your accountant. I would advise, but if it's inside IR 35, I think this might constitute employment. So you, whoever you have the contract with, you need to speak to them as well, just to make sure that it's established who is liable to pay the taxes, who is liable for that. That's very important. Sorry, I'm just having issues with my mouse. That's fine. Hopefully that helps you. Ahmed on Facebook Messenger. I run a restaurant and lockdown actually forced us to figure out how to do deliveries. Now we have a pretty strong demand through the online model that now the physical restaurant is open again. I'm wondering if I have the resources to run both. What should I do? Well, you need to upgrade your business plan, Ahmed. First of all, well done for thinking outside the box and pivoting the business, not relying on waiting on the customers to come in. That's very good. So obviously, if you want to run your restaurants physically and if you want to be able to do deliveries as well, there will be extra costs associated with it. So you need to make a plan, you need to incorporate those. Yes, on the other side, you are going to have extra income, but you need to weigh up whether the extra income is enough income when you take into consideration the extra expenses. Obviously, you will need extra staff, I assume. You will need additional insurance. You will need the car, or at least you will pay somebody for their mileage. So those are all things. It can be done, but you need to make sure that you revise your business plan to take these changes into consideration. Otherwise, it might be a nasty surprise for you, because sometimes it's just not viable, depending on your pricing and everything else. So just make sure that you have it all written down, business plan, reshape, rewritten, and it's still making financial sense for you to do it. But it can be done. It can be done. And I wish you the best of luck with that. The time flies when you're having fun. This was my last question, guys. So thank you so much. I just want to announce the poll results. We have asked you, do you prefer working for yourself or being employed? So 25% of you said work for self, and 75% answered being employed. So I'm actually quite surprised. So you must, guys, see that being self-employed, being your own boss, isn't always that easy. And I would agree with you, depending on the circumstances, sometimes it's much easier to be employed and getting secure paychecks every week or every month. So I'm not overly surprised, but if you have a wonderful idea, or if you're struggling, if you hate your job, there is definitely something to think about being your own boss, because it's a rewarding type of life as well. It motivates you, it charges you up It's quite an exciting thing to do, but you need to have everything in place. And there are just certain periods in your life, in the person's life, where it's easier to be employed than self-employed. So that's kind of food for thought for today. I'd like to thank you all for tuning in. If you have any more questions, please get in touch with me on LinkedIn, Eva Mrazikova. And coming up on Ask the Expert tomorrow is Kim Arnold, an international branding, marketing, and communication expert. Tune in to learn marketing tricks to help your business bounce back as coronavirus restrictions ease. Just a reminder, if you need any more advice, you can join the official SMB, QuickBooks SMB community group on Facebook, where the accountants and business experts are on hand 24/7. And don't forget the Be Your Own Boss competition on TikTok. You can pitch a new business idea and you could win investment, mentorship, and business advice. Tag hashtag Be Your Own Boss to enter. The investment pot is now up to £10,000 thanks to Go Cardless adding more into the initial pot from the purposeful project. Tag hashtag Be Your Own Boss to enter. I've really enjoyed answering all your questions. As always, guys, thank you. You were fabulous. Thank you for tuning in, and I wish you a wonderful week. Bye.